This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's good, folks? Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome
Yeah.
to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I'm one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Erik Turner. And Erik, got some Bills self-scouting things that we dove into during the bye. We alluded to some of that last week in the episode, talking about what we're going to do this week, but bit of a week off last week with the Bills not having a game. So self-scouting, some course correction, taking a look at some things with a heavy conversation episode in this one with a lot of context, situational elements, graphics, numbers, some charts, some film to go along with it potentially. But it's Thanksgiving week. Yep, a lot to be had there. Kind of similar to the menu of food that will be had in the coming days for Thanksgiving. Big week. I know you're a huge fan of Thanksgiving, as am I. Ready to batten down the hatches, watch some football, eat some really good food. It's a good time. How you feeling? How you doing?
Oh, like you said, man, I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday. Last Sunday we had our obviously the Bills didn't play, and we usually have friends and family over. So we did a Friendsgiving, which my wife did a turkey. I smoked a turkey, and tomorrow my in-laws are coming over for Thanksgiving, and we're doing it all over again. I'm smoking another turkey tonight at midnight. I love this holiday. And it's even better when the Bills beat the Chiefs leading into that bye week into Thanksgiving. So it's been a great, a little time off. But like you said, man, we have a lot to cover today. We have some injury news. We have some big picture topics when it comes to the Bills and how their offensive scheme has changed under Joe Brady, and really went down the road that we talked about when Brady took over last year. But also we have some stuff on the defense, when we're talking havoc and their style of defense, but also their improvement when it comes to tackling. And that is a big talking point that I don't think has gotten enough shine. And so we're going to cover it with some stats, all of these things with stats, with film, of course. We appreciate you guys joining us live here at 2:00 in the afternoon. I know it's a little different time for us, but we wanted to get this, ripped and done so that we could enjoy time this Thanksgiving with our families.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to smoke a turkey later. My wife and I got to do some. So we're going to my mom's tomorrow, but we've got everybody in the family has like their responsibilities of what they have to cook and bring. So we have to go shopping tonight, grab the stuff. I had multiple people last night in disguise coverage. We went on like a 10-minute tangent of like Thanksgiving things. And a bunch of people were talking about the smoked turkey piece. I've never done it. I've done a deep fried turkey and I've done the oven turkey. And the chat was just like back and forth of everybody being like, you got to go smoke turkey. You got to go smoke turkey. And you saying it now, I feel like it's another one. I'm like, oh man, like it's too late now to do it this year, but I feel like I need to start putting feelers out there to the family to be like, this might be something we have to do in the future.
Once you go there, it's difficult to go back. This is the second year I did it, but like I said, I'm doing 2 this year alone, just because it's just that good, man. It's that good. It takes a little more time, but I have a pellet smoker, so it's easy. You throw it on, I brine it for 24 hours, then I throw it on, and usually it's like 30 to 45 minutes per pound. We got a decent sized bird, a 15-pound bird. So, it takes a little time overnight, but once you're carving that up and you get to eat it with the family, man, once you have that smoked turkey, man, it's difficult to go back to the regular turkey in the oven.
Man, yeah, now that as soon as you mentioned it, like I zoned out, and in my head, all I was thinking about was like, man, how good is the smoked turkey? Like, this is
I just saw like Homer Simpson, like gif, he's just drilling.
That's it. I started like fading out. I was like, oh man, this sounds really good. Actually appreciate this comment from James saying, happy Thanksgiving. We're all thankful for you guys. Thank you, James. We're thankful for you and everybody that, like we say it every week, whatever form or fashion your support comes in, whether it's being here live or super chats or the Discord members or just likes, retweets, whatever the hell. We appreciate you and everyone that supports it just like you. So that was awesome to see. And yeah, this will be a fun conversation in this episode, Erik. Like you mentioned, some of the pieces on offense, some of the pieces on defense, really starting to put some things into focus that maybe have kind of gone under the radar a little bit for some fans and some people, also being able to potentially hone in on some things that deserve some more shine potentially. But like you mentioned, before we get into that, some news, potentially. I really don't want to jinx it. We'll see what happens. But we have pulled up on the screen video from practice of Mr. Matt Milano. Erik, as you noted, in the white jersey, not the red non-contact jersey. We've been accustomed to seeing him working since he's come back. potentially could be on the docket for playing this week against the 49ers. What are your thoughts here on seeing Milano start to ramp up a little bit and maybe potentially suiting up on Sunday night against San Francisco?
Yeah, what's funny is I was asking around about him prior to practice today, and I was told that the feeling was that he was going to play this weekend. As far as rep count, not sure. They're unsure about that, according to the source I talked to. But it was interesting to see him, like you said, come out and not have the red jersey on. It's not something I track, but obviously it was pointed out by several members. So I'm not sure if today was. Maybe you guys can fact check that. If today was the first day since returning or in that window, that practice window, that he didn't wear that red jersey, that'd be interesting to keep an eye on or track if you guys want to fact check that. But I was told that, he's working it. He's working in. He looks good. How many reps he gets this weekend against San Francisco to be determined, and if at all. But I was told there was a pretty good feeling that he may get some play and reps in this game on Sunday night.
Man, I am so excited for him to potentially return. And again, I try not to get my hopes up too much because I think it is a lot to miss this much time. Still coming off that injury. Like, I don't think he's all of a sudden going to show up and start mossing guys like he was against the Raiders last year before he went down and playing at that all-pro level necessarily. But if they can start to ramp him up little by little, Erik, I know this is even more exciting for you with how much you love linebackers.
Yeah.
But the idea of Matt Milano playing with this version of Terrell Bernard at that second level, like the gap shooting potential and the triggering and like everything that can just happen from a fit perspective and an exchange perspective with run fits and gaps, and how good Milano is physically, but how smart he is, the communication that we would expect to see an uptick in the defense as well, potentially. I'm very excited to see how he comes back. And then hopefully if they bring him along bit by bit, hopefully he can get it ramped up as close to 100% as possible come playoff time. And then if you have like a full go Matt Milano for the playoffs in this defense, that's a really exciting, potential opportunity given how everything else has come along this year, how the rest of the defense has started to fit and what he could mean potentially. Yeah.
Right. And that's why I don't think they should rush him back. I mean, if he is healthy enough to play, it looks like he is. Again, he's still, recovering from the bicep injury, but most people think, hey, you need to ramp him up. Yes and no, because think about it. Like, his legs are good. That's not the issue. I think that when you look at him physically, when it comes from like the hips down and how his knee is recovered, or his, lower legs have recovered, I think he looks fine in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see, how often he plays, if he does play this weekend, because someone we're going to talk about in Dorian Williams tonight.
Yeah,
he's played pretty well. Has he had hiccups and road bumps along the way? Absolutely.
Yes.
But he's part of the reason why some of the numbers on defense are as good as they are when we're talking tackling. So keep that in mind going forward, especially as it has been noted in the chat, with the weather likely, being on the bad side, and weather in Buffalo, it's always it's a crapshoot. And so who knows how that unfolds, but good to see him working back, and good to hear that he may play this weekend, because like you said, he's a big piece, and the Bills would like to have that piece back and really hit the ground running when we're talking the late season run into the playoffs. Yeah,
absolutely. And, good shout there for Dorian, who, like you said, we'll talk about going forward. I think he's, and we've spoken about him positively and negatively on this show, starting from the preseason. I think he's performed admirably this year in Milano's stead. It's not easy to replace a guy of Milano's caliber, and seeing him right now, I fact checked it just to be certain. Yeah, run and pass all combined, he's 10th in the entire league in stops, which is awesome to kind of see that level of play from him. And again, had some struggles fitting the run and more so in coverage, but just being that level of impact player. And it's funny, I don't want to get too ahead of myself or ourselves here, but it's funny how like his play style in regards to the stops fits in to the Bills' identity defensively and philosophically and what they tackling. Like to do. And
he's a sure tackler. That's one thing Dorian does well. He's a run and chase guy. And when you look at some of the havoc stuff like we're going to, that guy, 58, he's a havoc guy. He's a guy that creates chaos. And sometimes he misses tackles doing that. Dorian is more of a run and chase guy. He's not a guy that shoots a lot of gaps and penetrates upfield, but he can run sideline to sideline and make those tackles and make him, he wraps up when he does. And a lot of times he'll bring he'll bring those pads
He
as well.
breaks
So
everything. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll talk about that stuff later, but it is interesting to see how well Dorian has played. And that's why I think you don't have to rush Milano back.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, those long arms, he's got long arms, but he's thick at the same time. So when he gets you within his grasp, like, yeah, you're usually not going anywhere. And it's nice to see how, he breaks everything. He wants to like run through you 1000%, which is a really nice piece and a nice aspect to his game in the stead of Matt Milano. Erik kind of framing this Bills conversation going forward, coming again out of that game against Kansas City. The Bills are 9-2. The Chiefs are now 10-1 as we move down this home stretch. Wanted to pull up this graphic from our friends over at BetUS. This is the current standings for the AFC heading into week 13. We showed a similar graphic about a month ago, kind of framing things in terms of how the seeding was going to get down. This is that type of year for me, and I know for several others. Erik, maybe you not so much when it comes to looking and seeing, okay, who's lining up to be the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, what matchups are potentially, going to be down the pike for the Bills. And as we sit right now, again, the Chiefs in that 1 seed at 10-1, the Bills in the 2 seed at 9-2. But what's nice is the Ravens and the Texans, both teams that have the tiebreaker advantage against the Buffalo Bills, are a couple games behind the Bills. The Ravens 2 games behind the Bills in the loss column. The Texans now 3 games behind the Bills in the loss column. So if the Bills, even if they don't get that 1 seed and they can wrap up the 2, that, and KC's the 1, that means you're not seeing the Chiefs until the AFC Championship at the earliest, which is somewhat of an advantage in this AFC conference.
Right. And when you pair that with the Bills schedule coming up and who they're playing against in being, the Niners, the Rams, the Lions before, facing the Patriots, the AFC is going to start as they are starting to beat themselves up a little bit. And the Bills have really fared quite well in the AFC conference. So to see how that's kind of unfolding, that's great. So, the next few games are, of course, important in the grand scheme of things with wins and losses. But when it comes to their conference, the next 3 games and against decent teams, relatively speaking, I think that's a good thing for the Bills. Now I expect them to win most of these games. I can't wait. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that Lions game in 3 weeks is going to be interesting as well. But the way it's shaping up, this is not something I typically pay attention to because I'm too like micro, like in the film, we're just, we're micro a lot of times when we're looking at plays, the play to play. But for this, it's interesting to see how it's unfolding, especially when you're talking about like just the other night when, Baltimore and the Chargers play and seeing those teams in the conference kind of start to knock themselves off and even Houston too. Houston's had, a rough stretch the last few weeks as well. And so, teams like that are the teams you're going to have to kind of watch because like you said, prior to recording, I mean, that's a team that got the best of the Bills just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And it's funny too, to see the teams that are going to continue to kind of eat each other a little bit in that AFC. The Chiefs have to play in week 16. They play the Texans. In week 17, they play the Steelers. The Ravens have another game against the Steelers. They also have a game coming up against the Houston Texans. So there still is more moving and shaking to be done in this AFC. And if the Bills can just stay the course, stay around that 3 or 4 loss, column record, potentially you could lock up that 2 seed, potential still to get the 1 based on what happens with Kansas City. It's nice to kind of see the spot that they're in. And I echo your sentiments on being micro. One of the comments I got last night on the show was asking me about, potential free agents leaving in the offseason and who to have our eyes on. And I was straight up like, I am not there yet. I am still too much in this season with the Bills and other teams and X's and O's stuff. I was like, I can't get my brain to that spot. But really nice graphic here to kind of show us where we sit and put into perspective the AFC heading into week 13. Of course, this graphic presented by our friends at BetUS. And if you are looking for a new sports book this football season, BetUS is the answer. They give you the fastest payouts in the industry, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's code YouTube150. They give you a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, a 24/7 personalized service program, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they also can give you your very own personal account manager. Check out BetUS for all of your betting needs. And again, thank you to them for this fun graphic to kind of set the table for us a little bit, Erik, in this conversation as we start to move forward here.
Yeah, no doubt. We appreciate them and their partnership. And they have a lot of info on their website. You know, we always go down rabbit holes when it comes to stats and film and, you know, studying down and distance stuff. There's some rabbit holes and some parlays the rabbit holes that you can go down on their website. So I posted a link in the chat in the comments. Get to their website and sign up with them. They're a great partner. They've been taking care of us since day one.
Absolutely. I've been pulling up these comments randomly, but I just wanted to like the global nature of this. So
Yeah, it's
like
pretty dope.
we got a comment saying like, I'm Japanese and I like this YouTube. And then Kei Amori, who I knew was Japanese, came in and said, hello from a fellow Japanese Bills fan. I just love the interaction between the two of them in the chat. And then knowing like, I don't know, I'm just going to go full stretch with them and be like, yeah, we're global. Like we're out there in Japan. Like, that's it. Like that's
and Kei Amori, if I'm not mistaken, he's an insider. He's one of our guys in the Discord channel day in and day out and sharing our stuff all the time. So yeah, man, we appreciate all you guys coming here live 2:00 in the afternoon the night before Thanksgiving on Wednesday. But with that said, Anthony, let's transition, man. Let's start with the offense side of the ball.
Yak.
And the yak conversation and how the scheme that has changed really the entire nature of the Bills, along with the trends of the league. It's kind of going right in line with the trends of the league and, you know, yards after the catch. And in order for this type of transformation to happen with Joe Brady, Josh Allen, especially in the Bills offense, it was a top-down change. It was something that Bean and that scouting staff had to get on board with to get the proper personnel for Joe Brady and the Bills offense. It's something that Josh had to work on in the offseason and his placement. And we're not talking, we always talk general accuracy versus placement. This is a big thing for Josh. You know, there were 3-4 years ago, Josh couldn't throw a drag route. We broke it down in here. That was like his nemesis. He could not throw a 3 to 5 yard drag route, crossing route. Now he's doing it regularly. And now everyone's executing mesh regularly in this offense. Thank Jesus. And so this had to be a top-down change, you know, the staff and the players and the personnel. And so we need to start there, give them kudos and props there. But it was awesome to have because it gets the ball out of Josh's hands. And as we said, it takes a lot of pressure out of Josh's hands when he can just throw it short on a screen, on a crossing route, and then have his personnel and his guys work for him.
Yeah, it's a conversation piece that I don't know, for three off seasons in a row type of deal. The conversation of Yak and Allen talking about putting the ball in better places so receivers don't have to break stride. They don't have to break their gait. And like you said, we've seen it so much more this year, mesh being a huge piece of it. But Allen, you know, putting the ball in good places in the underneath and the low intermediate, the screen game to Khalil Shakir, obviously something we're going to talk about him as being a huge focus with this. But this graphic, we were talking about it offline before we went live here. This graphic really puts into perspective the evolution of the Bills offense from a yards after catch perspective. Like it's just so easy to see the years, the trajectory, and then the difference between where their previous highs were in 2023 and 2018 versus just being blown out of the water by where they are right now in 2024.
Yeah, yards after catch per reception at 6.6 yards. That's third overall behind the number 1 Detroit Lions and then the Baltimore Ravens. In yards after catch percentage, they are ranked 4th, and that's behind, let's see, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions are also in there, and then the Bills are at 4. Who's number 2? The Chiefs are 2nd. And again, this is kind of where the league is going to be. This drastic though, it's crazy. And I'm sure if we looked at some of the splits of the first to second half with, you know, Dorsey to Brady last year, I know for a fact that there was an increase in a shift in this direction. But to see the difference from the prior years and how the Bills were a spread offense and spreading things out, trying to attack vertically, and to what they are now, you know, kind of not dinking and dunking, but throwing it shorter and having those guys and the personnel do their thing. That's been a complete overhaul. And as I said, an evolution of the Bills offense.
Absolutely. It really felt like for the past couple of years, it really was. And, and it worked, like, especially with Diggs and Beasley, but it was really just like, go find the space, get open. Allen's going to pin it on you. You're probably going to get tackled right away, but you're going to get tackled for a 9-yard gain, 10-yard gain. We'll keep it moving, so on and so forth. And now, like you said, it has been more kind of a focus of letting the ball do the work, or letting the guys that are not Josh Allen do some of the work. And I want to bring up this question from K. Mori. Erik, you alluded to it a little bit, and it's a good question from K. Mori saying, I was curious about this graphic. Is there an increasing trend in yards after catch percentage per yards across the league? Basically, like, how does this graphic look for all 32 teams, or is it more of a Bills thing? And he said, thanks for the shout out, by the way. Erik, you alluded to it a bit. I second that notion in terms of just yards after catch being more of a focus in terms of ramping up for teams in this league. And I think a lot of it, the conversation, too high coverages and shells and all this stuff on the back end, like, teams are trying to play top down and put a cap on explosives, put a cap on those vertical pieces and explosives that you can generate with air yards. So offenses are starting to counter by trying to take advantage of the space underneath and in the intermediate, whether schematically by design with screens, or some of the stuff where it's like a 3-by-1 and you throw the drag and it ends up being kind of like they create a wall downfield for a little screen in the intermediate, or just kind of taking advantage of, smaller, shiftier, speedy type of guys and getting them on the ball on the move. It seems like teams are moving in that direction in terms of creating explosives rather than doing it with air yards and pushing the ball down the field vertically. Teams are trying to create explosives by getting the ball into the hands of their playmakers and allowing them to generate yards after catch to kind of counteract the type of coverages and top-down umbrella approach that we're seeing from the league.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, as teams try to limit those explosives, you got to come up with ways, like you said, to kind of counteract that and get them. We talked about in that Cardinals game, the first game of the year, how the Cardinals were doing that. They were capping the Bills, and so the Bills, started to run the ball, and they did some things underneath that forced the Cardinals to come up into those single high looks, and then the Bills got explosives down the field. And so, I think it's something that has, progressed over the years, and it's incrementally, but you also got to think about, how, the league isn't just shifting year to year, but incrementally it has gotten to this point where, they are throwing it shorter. I mean, let's see, as of 2020, the yak per reception was 5.1 and the yak percentage was 45.7%. So slightly lower that year. Whereas right now, again, this year it's 5.3 yak per reception for an average, and then the yak percentage is 48.5%. So again, it's incrementally gone up the last couple of years. So, but I think now, as we talked about, the Bills are kind of equipped, not just from a scheme perspective, but from a personnel perspective. And you talked about Shakir, some of those screens, but I think I know Coleman hasn't been in the last couple of weeks, but I think he was a guy that somewhat surprised us on how, some of the yak that he was able to, to bring into this offense. But at the same time, we talked about him being a former punt returner, and we're like, okay, he's got some of that in him, and we're going to show a couple plays later on when we get to the film. I think, he's been a nice boost. I think Kincaid, again, he's been injured a little bit. I think they haven't really got him going when we're looking at, yak per reception, stuff like that. But I mean, if you look right now at this graphic, courtesy of True Media, you can see Shakir. He's on a whole nother level, right?
Absolutely.
Another level when it comes to tackles avoided on receptions, whether you're looking at the percentage or just the raw number there at 16. He's on a whole nother level. And I'm sure you got some good stats when you're looking at Shakir in, that rack ability post catch when you're comparing him to his peers across the league.
Yeah, it's a fun little kind of juxtaposition. So Ja'Marr Chase currently leads all wide receivers and the entire NFL in yards after catch with 493 yards after catch. Shakir is second amongst wide receivers and third overall with 456. Fun fact, in case anyone cares, Alvin Kamara is second in between the two of them overall. But the average air yards per target for Ja'Marr Chase is 9.6. The average air yards per target for Khalil Shakir is 3.5. And to put that into further perspective, 40.6% of Khalil Shakir's targets have come behind the line of scrimmage, versus 17.5% for Chase. Shakir's average depth of target on those throws behind the line of scrimmage is negative 3.4. And he also has the most targets behind the line of scrimmage with 26. Just that continuous ability to operate in and around or behind the line of scrimmage and be this easy button, whether it's by these design screens or, these RPO bubbles, these kind of pass tags to take advantage of numbers and spitting it out quick to Shakir to take advantage of space and leverage. The scheme has helped him, but like you talked about it, it's been some of that personnel as well. And his tackle breaking, we talked about it. We broke it down. He was you, me, and Kendall. That's how long ago this was.
Yeah.
When Shakir was drafted. We talked about it. And I think Kendall was the first one who said it, like his ability to turn into a running back once he gets the ball in his hands.
That transition.
That transition. We've seen it consistently. And that ability to operate with that contact balance, that power, that toughness, that explosion in his game, like a running back once he gets the ball, has been hugely important to his success. And it also transitions us into this next part of the conversation, which is how the running backs are also being targeted in this aspect and how they function and funnel into the yards after catch decision. And then also kind of into the larger picture of Josh Allen taking what defenses are giving him, taking that check down to the space and guys creating, in addition to all the rail stuff that we see all the time.
Right. And Ray Davis, yak per reception, 12.2. Yeah. Obviously, the sample size has an issue, a lot of the factor to that. Coleman at 8.7. Again, I think that one's like, whoa, that's kind of surprising. 8.2 for Shakir. James Cook, 7.6. Kincaid, 6.2. And then there's kind of a drop off there. But my thing is, like, defending the running back in the passing game. One, not every team has a running back that can play in and play out, take one to the house via a passing game, run a route, and do things like that. So I do think that Ray Davis and James Cook are very talented running backs when it comes to catching the ball. And so when you have a team that has guys like that, it makes game planning versus them that much more difficult. It's probably when you're looking at the priorities on what position to stop or who to stop, I wouldn't say they're near the top of it. And so some of the stuff that Brady, again, this is a scheme personnel talk, some of the stuff that Brady has in his arsenal, in his playbook, two running backs in the passing game, they are easy button plays. They are, when we talk the mesh rail, that rail route, that out and up, or whatever you want to call it, up the sideline or up the numbers by the running back, that is technically the first read in a progression, but it's more of an alert. Like, hey, if you get this look, you get this leverage, that's the alert. And so there are a lot of plays like that for the Bills when we're talking running backs. And like I said, I think that Joe Brady needs to get some of the kudos in maximizing guys like Ray Davis and James Cook in the passing game.
Absolutely. We've seen whether it's the rail on the mesh, whether it's, the rail with that little hitch route on the outside that Gabe Davis would run a bunch. Now Mac Hollins runs it, like getting the running backs involved. We talked about it a lot when Brady came on, and just getting them, or, add into that too, the mesh traffic, or slither as Brady calls it, being able to take advantage of the skill sets that they have. And I think what helps too, like you said, the Bills have three running backs that can do it. We talk a lot about James Cook and Ray Davis. Ty Johnson is no slouch.
On third down, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's made some really big catches on third down.
He has, and it's nice that he can be that guy as a pass catcher and run the ball a little bit, considering that he's the best pass protector they have at the running back spot, and he doesn't get enough love for that. And being able to just put defenses into a bind. And Erik, as you run this play, the big house call from Ray Davis, part of that sample size and this big play kind of skewing those numbers a little bit. Miami doesn't do what the Bills have done so well against mesh in terms of, executing who to take where and pass off and push and all that stuff. Miami leaves Davis wide open, but you can see that this being the primary, but also kind of that alert function at the same time, like you mentioned, of Allen just seeing it right away, taking advantage of it with the matchup, and, an easy button for him just to dump it off and let Davis do the rest.
Right. And you mentioned Slither, that mesh traffic, again, against Miami, they play a lot of man coverage. Well, guess what? You're going to get a lot of man beater concepts. You get some eye candy here with Samuel, and then you're just sneaking Cook out. But kudos to the guy we always talk about week in and week out, Mac Hollins, and the way he set picks on these mesh plays. I mean, I swear it's every single week he's doing the little things, the dirty work to break guys out for big plays, including the running backs.
Yeah, he's really an unsung hero with the dirty work that he does and has done. He even helping to free Keon Coleman up for his deep touchdown, I forget, on that crossing route earlier in the year when he kind of set that pick downfield. Had it again last week, for the Samuel touchdown against Kansas City. that is truly an art, and it truly is a skill. It's not just like, well, you could put anybody there and have them just get in the way. Like, this one is a great example because not only does he make David Long fall down, but just to get in the way like that and not draw contact and not draw the flag. Like, we've seen it go wrong for the Bills and other teams. You see guys make too much contact and the flag gets thrown. It's a genuine skill and technique to pace your route and have the right angle and trajectory and time it properly to get into the way and free somebody up. He's been key on a lot of these. And again, this one's the best example. And I always love how Cook goes for the flip, but Howard's like, no. And it gives him that little push at the end.
Yeah. And so, you saw the running backs being primary here. And here's one versus Jacksonville where they got an explosive play, a curl rail route. This is, again, backside of the formation here, a 3-by-1 set. You'll see on the front side more of a stick route or option route and the 3 wide receiver side. But, Cook gets the leverage. He gets a nice little pick by, once again, Matt Collins. You get an explosive play. But this is when I talk about Brady and how he's helped the offense, but he's helped Josh Allen. You're going to see the same play here now. You saw them completed to Jacksonville, but on the bottom of the screen, now watch. They're trying to get it to James Cook. It's not there. Trying to get it to Keon Coleman. It's not there on the curl route. So what's he do on the backside? He's got an option route by Curtis Samuel, and then he's got this dig route coming to the middle of the field by Dalton Kincaid. And so he's got the scheme in place to get Josh working through pure progressions. And keeping him, again, that checklist, we talked about it last week and several weeks prior, keeping him in line. You see Josh go through his process, his progressions here. Those first 2 aren't there. What does he? Snaps his eyes to 3 and 4 over the middle of the field. And guess what? Dalton Kincaid comes uncovered, middle of the field. And this is where Josh's work in the offseason has really helped him. His recommitment to his accuracy and his skill and his craft. You see him work through his progressions once again. But then the placement of this pass to Dalton Kincaid, again, the 4th guy in his option, right on the hands. And that allows what Kincaid to do? Allows him to get yards after the catch.
Yeah, you don't have to break your stride. You're able to maintain that gait and just keep going. And this has been nice to see from Allen and from Brady, like you said, having that, okay, to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but it's not like 1 and 2 are, outside the hashes here and 3 and 4 are outside the hashes on the other side. And I got to flip my eyes and flip my hips. It is more of that pure
Damn
progression.
It, Dorsey.
I know. I mean, when that option based offense works, it's so hard to defend.
Impossible. It's impossible to defend. Yeah.
But when it doesn't work, it's ugly and clunky and you feel like you're stuck in neutral at times. And the Bills are running into that. Having this ability now, again, we've seen it so much, like Allen going from 1 to 2 to 3 or 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, but not having to scan the entire field because everything's flowing together. There is that progression. And it also functions with the coverages that we're seeing now, being able to kind of flood more zones and put defenses into a bind so you can find that space. And the Bills also have guys that are adept at finding that space, like Shakir, like Kincaid, even Matt Collins to a degree, and then higher level guys too, like Amari Cooper and the other additions they've made.
Flashback to the Titans game, scheme and personnel at work on this play. They gave Josh a run pass tag where he's got likely duo called based on the formation there in alignment, but if he likes what he sees outside, he gets that one-on-one coverage, which he does here to Keon Coleman. They have a pass tag here. They have a slant called and they run different variations and routes from that alignment. But you see Keon Coleman breaking that tackle and he gets several yards after the catch on this big play. So once again, scheme plus personnel working to overhaul and evolve this Bills offense.
Yeah, and we've seen this, run with the pass tag to Keon multiple times. It didn't work the first time they did it against Houston. He conked Keon right in the head. Keon wasn't ready for it, but he nailed this one. Similar on the touchdown to Keon against the Seahawks in the low red zone with the run with the pass tag again. Like, also from a negative perspective, similar again against the Dolphins. Keon dropped it. Ramsey gets the pick in the low red zone. But this has been a nice option for them. And Josh and Keon have started to get more on the same page in terms of the recognition, the timing of it. And, you mentioned it earlier, Keon, being somebody who has functioned in this way and his ability as a punt returner at Florida State. A lot of people overlooked the athleticism that he brought because of the slow 40 time and thought that meant he wasn't a good athlete. And he's been really good in this yards after catch arena as well. Out of 152 qualifying players, Khalil Shakir is 18th in yards after catch over expected. Keon Coleman is right behind him at 19th. Shakir has 88 yards after catch over expected. Coleman has 87. There's a lot of running backs in that top 20 as well. If you factor out the running backs and you're just focusing on the wide receivers, Shakir is wide receiver 8 this year in yards after catch over expected, and Keon Coleman is 9th, wide receiver 9 in yards after catch over expected. It's been a really nice aspect of his game with what he's added to the yak conversation along with Shakir.
Yeah, and here's another play, this time against the Texans. Texans show cover 0. You shouldn't play cover 0 against Josh. You have Coleman as that hot. He's running a stop route up top, and Josh finds enough time. And I love the anticipation by Josh. You can see Coleman's not even breaking yet. He's not even throwing that guy by yet, and Josh is already starting that throw, and he catches it and then transitions quickly, right, Anthony, into that runner back inside, and then watch Hollins. Watch Dawson Knox down the field help spring Coleman for that touchdown. So big play here, 4th down, high leverage situation, cover 0, aggressive pressure by the Texans, and Josh is cool and comfortable in the pocket, and he hits his rookie wide receiver, and the rookie Coleman does the rest.
Yeah, this is where you see that athleticism and to be able to transition from being in the route to catching the ball and getting upfield, like to feel where that defender is. It's almost, similar. I hate to keep making the basketball references with him, but it's like he got the ball in the low post and immediately caught it, felt where his defender was, turned, and, just laid it up kind of to get the bucket right there. That feel and that understanding, in addition to a good route and separating and the anticipation from Allen. But again, that athleticism, that type of aspect, you alluded to it, like they changed body types and skill sets a bit this year in that wide receiver room, and it's led to an increased, focus and output in terms of yards after catch. And then you can just kind of do some of the more easier button stuff, which is just spit it out to Khalil Shakir and let Ryan Vandermark get out in front and bury a couple guys and, do it kind of the old fashioned way, which is, I'm going to let someone else do the work if I'm Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, these leverage screens, hey, if there's leverage or there's a numbers advantage, go ahead and, like you said, spit it out to Shakir and let him and his run after catch ability, a special ability, take hold here. But this simple pitch and catch here to Shakir, this is something coming out of Wyoming Josh couldn't do, believe it or not, guys. If you go back and watch his film at Wyoming, he had issues throwing wide receiver screens. He had issues throwing swing routes or routes out to the running backs or flare routes out to the boundary. So this takes practice. This takes repetition. And how quickly Josh is catching the ball and then throwing it out there, that takes repetition. Dropping that elbow down and that arm delivery down so that the DN doesn't get a piece of it takes repetition and practice time. And so you can tell Joe Brady, Allen, and the Bills offense are repping these things, these cornerstones of their offense, like that alert call from Josh where he spits it out to Shakir. We'll see a couple of them. That takes repetition. And so you can see that he's improved. Josh has improved at throwing this. And the entire offense has improved when we're talking these screens and then that run after catch ability.
Yeah, when you look at Allen right there, like that looks like a double play ball being turned in baseball. Like you're catching that, you're switching your feet, you're catching, you're turning, you're spitting it to second base. Like look how he changes his footwork. Look how he changes his arm slot and his angle and where he places that ball. Like you said, that takes repetition, that takes practice. And we still see some of the ugly, Allen, pass tag or RPO bubble stuff where he chucks it at someone's feet every now and again, but he's made a concerted effort here, and it's shown because when he gets it into their hands like this, he sets them up for success, and then they're so good with the ball in their hands. It just, I love this one. This one's so beautiful. I'm just going to stop talking so we can appreciate this one now. I like this so much.
Yeah, I mean, here comes Dawkins, flatlining a defender right there. But
Shakir surfs on the bodies.
The focus, Shakir is an extension of the run game with these screens, and the Bills have this play in different variations, sometimes bubble, sometimes tunnel. There are different ways to getting to it, but Shakir is the centerpiece. And, when teams have seen this for weeks now. They've seen it since last year, and they still can't stop it because once they start to commit different things and different leverages on the outside to Shakir, then the Bills can do what? They can pivot. They can run inside now. They can do some things inside with the run game and stuff like that. So when you have a guy that's this special with the ball in his hands, you want to get it to him quickly, a la what you said, 3.5 yards, average depth of target or whatever when it comes to him compared to Chase. And so when you have a guy that can do this, that is just it's an easy button play for them now. And like I said, it's a commitment from the top down when we're talking personnel and the scheme.
Yeah, this is actually really fits really well into those numbers. Yeah, average air yards per target for Khalil Shakir on the year is 3.5, and 40.6% of Shakir's targets have come behind the line of scrimmage. This kind of fits into those buckets. Like Allen just spits it out. And another example for an unsung hero too, like great block from Mac Hollins.
Initially,
recognizing like that quick trigger from the nickel. He immediately gets out there, and then you have Dawkins making it happen as well. Like it is a team effort starting from, Brady and, calling it, Allen spitting it out properly, Shakir doing what he can, the blocking. But it is that concerted effort. And we talk about it all the time. Football is just, numbers and angles and space. And a lot of these quick hitters and these yards after catch plays are the Bills taking advantage of numbers, angles, or space. And here's another example here going to Shakir, taking advantage of space. And Shakir, again, doing what, I love that the hesitation move on Najee Johnson. So pretty. So pretty.
And this is what I mean by scheme and personnel, because the Bills are trying to hit an explosive play. They're trying to sneak the running back up the sideline versus Drew Tranquil. So they have a shot call here on that leak play, but it's covered rather well, and they have a safety deep. So Josh reads high to low, and he's like, you know what? It's not there. I don't have to force it. And the check down's not a running back. It's actually Shakir, but he actually does a better job than a running back would with his movement of making that first guy miss, but then also having that acceleration to get upfield beyond Johnson, number 13, that defensive back right there, and just scooting up the field for yards after catch.
Yeah, he breaks the tackle from Jamari Connor, their, big nickel, who is pretty much their regular nickel, and the ability to kind of, again, like win against multiple body types and skill sets. So Shakir is breaking the tackle against the safety and then has the speed and burst after he breaks the tackle. Quick little hezzy right here against Johnson just to break him down, and then bang, that speed and burst to get vertical. So you've got the toughness and physicality and contact balance to break a tackle from a safety, but then the speed and the burst to get by a traditional corner, someone who should be, faster than you or quicker than you based on size and frame. It's such a nice piece. And like you said, like this is where you're checking it down to a running back. Okay, let's see what happens. But no, the running back in this case is Khalil Shakir. And that's a nice answer too, because again, like you said, kudos to KC. They covered up the primary options and Allen was like, all right, cool, I guess I'll take this. And it turned into an easy first down.
Right. And, Shakir, obviously he stood out. We showed you graphics. We showed you film when it comes to run after catch, when it comes to yards after the catch. I still think we saw a glimpse of it last week when we're talking Curtis Samuel. I think he is a guy that is his numbers are going to increase when it comes to yards after the catch. They haven't really gotten Kincaid going. But this is what I mean when you have guys like Shakir, Kincaid, Samuel, and even the running backs included that can get yards after the catch. This is how you can stack different plays and tweak personnel and where they line up and things like that to get guys open to get yards after the catch. So watch this play. 3-by-1 set. You see Shakir come across the middle. Here's a nice zone beater. You see Shakir just hook it up on this route in between the corner and the linebacker, and you see him again break down a defender, break down that linebacker from the end zone angle. Just watch how he freezes that guy, much like you saw in that Chiefs game. And again, he's working as the outside receiver, a little motion to a tighter set, and then right here he gets matched up essentially one-on-one here in zone. And look at him break down the linebacker right there with a nice move. Get upfield. Now he's getting yardage. All right. So now if we flash back to the game last week with Curtis Samuel in there now, you can see the Bills ran the same exact play in against the Chiefs. So there's Shakir. He's coming down into that 3-by-1 set. But now watch Samuel. You see Johnson go with Shakir on the curl route over the middle. But guess what? Now you have these two defenders trying to match Dawson Knox and Curtis Samuel. And as that corner is off and soft there, and the corner from outside followed Shakir over the middle, now you have Curtis Samuel wide open. Same exact concept, slightly different personnel, but you're getting now a guy in Samuel who has that explosive, ability after the catch. He gets the pass there in the flats, makes that guy miss, and now he's up the field into the low red zone. Scheme and personnel working in this game and on this concept. And that's what I love what Joe Brady has done from the get-go with incorporating different guys in different slots, but also maximizing what they're good at.
Yeah. And when you've got those guys, again, that maximization comes from Brady, and it ties back to, what we talked about earlier and what Brandon Beane talked about this offseason, kind of going with that different approach. You've got more guys who are yards after catch focuses with Coleman with Shakir, with Curtis Samuel, and no disrespect to guys that were here prior, but Diggs wasn't a huge yards after catch guy.
No.
Gabe Davis was, because he was getting the ball like 30 yards downfield, catching it and
Right.
sometimes housing it, but he wasn't a traditional, yak guy. So different body types, different skill sets, and that roster building marrying with what the coordinator wants. We're seeing it play out regularly, and the ability for it to work in different ways, against the zone coverage, against the Titans, you create a mismatch. Shakir takes advantage of it. In this game, Erik, we talked about a bunch of these plays that were like this, where you're changing who's the number 1, the 2, and the 3 in the route distribution, messing with those man or match rules from the Chiefs, creating some hesitation in who's taking who and who's closing down on who. And when you create that hesitation in the defense and you're able to get the ball quickly into the hands of guys that are good with the ball after the catch and good in space, like Samuel, like Shakir, even Coleman to a degree, we're really starting to see it pay dividends for this Bills offense. And again, it just goes into what we've talked about for years and wanting that easy button. And not that that's, okay, like the easiest thing in the world for Allen, but Allen sees it, a wide open guy right away, and just kicks it to him. And then Samuel does the rest, or Shakir does the rest. And then that allows you to keep the mutant alien unicorn tucked away until you need to bring him out. And
100%.
that's so nice for the offense.
Taking the pressure off of Josh Allen, whether it's with the run game, extension of the run game, when it comes to Shakir and those screens, when it comes to those run pass tags, and just, throwing in that slant route to Keon Coleman and have him do the work post catch, or those running backs, whether it's on a check down or the rail up the sideline. Like, there's so much more on the menu for Josh Allen and the Bills offense this year under Brady. I will say the first, 11 games, it's been a success when it comes to Brady this season, but even more so if you track back all the way to when he took over last year and look at the numbers from there to here, they're still top 5 in a lot of the categories, including points. So he's done a great job, this year so far. It'll be even more interesting to see how he stacks some of the concepts and plays going forward with all this film now. But great job so far by Joe Brady, Josh Allen, the Bills offense, and making things so much more difficult for the defenses to game plan against.
Yeah, and that's not even taking into account like the run game and the run game diversity they have for the running backs or for Allen. Like, they really have this offense with multiple pivots, multiple buttons, let alone the personnel and the alignments to be able to access more of the menu without having to turn the page necessarily, everything that they can get to. It really has become a diverse and varied and multiple offense, which is really tremendous to see. And very nice for Josh Allen in this Bills offense. Going to move on to the defense now. Erik, actually, real quick, I wanted to pull up this question from Dennis. He said, I'd love to know what makes the difference between an illegal and legal pick or rub. So some of it is judgment-based. Essentially, the receiver has to be, kind of making a play on the ball or just running a route. So the intent has to be there to kind of purposely pick someone, which is why it's such a frustrating call for a lot of teams, because referees are trying to infer judgment. You essentially can't cut off the path of an opponent by making contact with him without playing the ball or without like kind of running a route. And that ties into the general rule in the rule book of blocking more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage by an offensive player prior to a pass being thrown is classified as offensive pass interference. So just wanted to kind of put that out there. That's directly from the NFL rule book to kind of put that into perspective. Which again, why it's such a fine line, because if you are trying to create that pick, but you have to make it look like you're not trying to create that pick. And that's why it's a genuine skill and technique. That's exactly right.
Even the Chiefs one, man, like, again, you said it's a judgment call, and it is. And when Hollins was running that route to free up Samuel, he was running well beyond where Samuel was going. And the defender that was in trail against Samuel was several yards off already. So it's not like when they collided, one, Hollins sold it well. Two, they weren't like right on top of each other. So it wasn't like that rub or mesh point between Hollins and Samuel was close, that he was already beyond them. And I think that's probably why they didn't call it, throw that flag there, because they weren't that close. And Hollins, honestly, even if Hollins didn't make contact with that guy, Samuel was going to be open because there was that much separation. So I think that was a good no call. You guys may say it's a homer call. I think it was a good no call there, but that's, again, it's a judgment call. And the Bills, for the most part, have done a really good job of not getting those flags. And again, that takes practice.
Absolutely. And what I liked about the no call with that play against Kansas City, Hollins never changes his trajectory on his route. He doesn't all of a sudden stop and come back or try to flatten. He maintains his angle and his trajectory from the get-go. Now he's looking across field and maybe kind of looking to see where Najee Johnson is, to see if he can get in his way, but he doesn't do anything that makes you like objectively say, oh, he definitely ran into him. He looks like he's just running a route and they collided, which again takes practice, takes technique, and it is a beautiful thing. It's something that doesn't get talked about enough. He's been a really good signing, for as much as everybody mocked him for being like, oh, he's a dude that's going to see the field a bunch, like this wide receiver group is going to suck. He's done a really good job, kind of unlocking things for others, actually being an answer for Josh Allen against cover 0 before they got Amari Cooper. He should have another touchdown on the board if Allen didn't miss him against Houston. He's been a nice addition. If your wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 5 is Matt Collins, in theory, you probably have a decent group because he does a lot of fun stuff at the bottom of that depth chart. Erik, speaking of fun stuff, havoc, chaos, controlled aggression, like it says on the graphic. Let's shift this conversation to the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills. And we alluded to this a bit in the intro, wanting to put some things into perspective regarding the Bills defense this year that maybe isn't being talked about enough, isn't being talked about at all in terms of how they're playing stylistically and from a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, and I think this year is a little different, especially when you frame it about the tackling and how great it's looked so far. So we're going to start with, again, that controlled aggression, the havoc rate. You can see the graphic here. Last year, they were 3rd in havoc rate at 19.4%. This year, it's dropped a little bit to 18.4%. But I think, as we talked about in the beginning, I think some of that has to do with the injuries to Taron Johnson and also Matt Milano especially, because he's one of the top guys when it comes to havoc rate. Especially when you frame it within the Bills defense. Bills have currently through 11 games, 11 forced fumbles. That's 4th overall this year. They had 13 the entire regular season last year. They're ranked 6th in fumbles recovered at 7 overall. They had 11 all of last year. Again, top 5 in that department as well. 13 interceptions so far in 11 games. That's ranked 4th overall. They had 18 all of last year in the regular season. And then tackles for loss. This is a big one. Look at the jump. Last year, they had 45 tackles for loss in the entire regular season. This year, they have 42 already, and that's already, again, 11 games in. That's ranked 6 overall.
And that's without Matt Milano. That's with missing Taron Johnson for a bit. That's with missing Terrell Bernard for a little bit. That's with Ed Oliver missing a game and then being a little banged up when he's coming back. Like, that's with Von Miller missing some time as well. That's with Smoot missing some time. Yeah, we've talked about it so much, Erik, like the nature of the Bills defense. They will get gashed. They will get displaced, but they're willing to be like, okay, hey, you're going to get us. We're also going to get you. And then we're going to get you in 2nd and 13, 2nd and 14 or longer, and then keep you in 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 9. And that's when we can really lean into, rushing with 4 down, playing coverage or playing numbers on the back end in terms of coverage and spinning safeties and disguising and all of these types of deals. It leads into that, right? Like, they're going to get got, but they're also going to get you. And more often than not, they get you more than they get got. Yeah. And it balances. And when you play that in with the coverage aspect, they become a sound unit and a sound defense. But this next one, Erik, the missed tackles, the solo tackles, missed tackles versus the run, missed tackles versus the pass. This has been an area, really, it feels like year after year where the Bills have kind of struggled, whether it's, in bigger moments or sometimes on the broadcast or even statistically. This year, it has been a stark difference in a good way for what they're doing this year from a tackling perspective in 2024 versus what they were in 2023. And this, graphic really kind of puts that into perspective.
Right. So again, they're a havoc attack-oriented defense, right, guys? Last year they were 3rd in havoc plays, and this year they're 10th. So there's a slight drop-off. But think about this. All right. Defensive plays that are considered havoc plays are tackles for losses, fumbles forced, interceptions, pass breakups, or sacks. All right. So that's what makes the havoc rate. That's what, the havoc rate is comprised of. And so the Bills, yes, they dropped a little bit to 10th, but they're still creating chaos, right? But it's a lot more controlled. As you can see, the missed tackles, they're at 11.2% right now, which is 7th overall. Last year, they were at 14.2%. That was ranked 31st. So obviously, overall missed tackle percentage, they're a better tackling unit this year. And we'll talk about why behind that here in a minute. Solo tackles, currently through 11 games, they are ranked 7th in solo tackles. That's 439 solo tackles. All of last regular season, they had 664, and they ended the season 21st in that department. Now, if you looked at how, missed tackles, the percentages, versus run and pass. This is where the eye opener is. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Slight, a pretty good adjustment from missed tackle percentage versus the run last year at 13.7%, which was ranked 28th, to a good jump. Now they're ranked 17th at 12.3%. So that's a considerable jump to average. All right. Maybe slightly below average. That's one thing to look at, especially when you compare it to some of the big runs that they've had against them. But the biggest change, Anthony,
this is huge.
Missed tackles versus the pass.
Huge.
Last year, 13%. They were ranked 26. This year, they're number 1 at 9.6%. When you consider all the injuries that they've had on the defensive side of the ball, guys in and out of the lineup, guys that, have been in the system, but, haven't been asked to play a lot of the roles that they did this year, on top of how often they're playing too high safety looks and all the space that creates underneath, all that considered, for them to be tops in the league at missing tackles, only missing a tackle 9.6% of the time, that is huge. And I think the biggest difference between this defensive unit when it comes to tackling and prior years.
Yeah, especially with that nature of kind of keeping everything in front of you and squeezing and, forcing the ball to the choke point. If you can't make the tackle at the choke point, that philosophy kind of sucks. And it'll kill you. And this year we haven't seen it as much. And again, for those, however you want to look at it, going from 26th to 1st is a huge jump, but that percentage point jump is huge. That is a 3.4 percentage point drop in a good way. That is massive when you're dropping multiple percentage points. And I think a lot of that conversation too comes from some of the unsexy guys that don't get love from a lot of the fans. Taylor Rapp is probably the best tackler on the Bills defense, especially coming from depth. Damar Hamlin is a good tackler coming from depth. And then you've got Bernard, you've got Johnson, you've got all these guys who are able to kind of attack and rally, but especially those safeties who are playing top down.
Safeties, right? They're playing, they're the safeties. They're the safety nets of the defense. And it's showing up in the pass game, man. Taylor Rapp hasn't missed a tackle.
What's funny is I had that in the back of my head and I was going to say it. I was like, I don't remember if that's right. Yeah, we talked about it when we brought him on as a free agent, and the Bills. His best quality was, coming forward, coming from depth as a tackler, and he has been so solid. And I know people make fun of, like he tried to lay out Henry and he got a concussion. Like, shut up. Like, he's such a good tackler, whether he's coming from the post or from a split field look. So reliable, forceful, and impactful.
And Damar Hamlin, as you can see in this graph, he's leading in solo tackles against the pass, and he's only got a 5% missed tackle percentage rate, which is phenomenal in the pass. Again, all things considered, the type of defense that the Bills play, for them to have those two guys, kind of in be that the security or safety blanket, that's phenomenal. And so
Benford,
two other guys,
crazy.
Benford, Rousseau Douglas, Dorian Williams, all great tacklers versus the pass. And it's just you can't talk about it enough. And you have the good tackling, the wrap up tackling. You have the tackles for loss. Rousseau's leading with 7 on the Bills, and that overall is ranked really high. Dorian Williams has 5, Douglas has 4, Bernard has 4, Rapp has 4. So all those guys, contributing in that department, and whether it's tackles for loss, whether it's sacks, those are havoc plays. And Rousseau, man, he's gonna get paid, and it's gonna be a really high market value. I'll just say that when it comes to him, because he's putting it all together now, and still, I don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling.
No, he's still growing. He's still trending upwards. And he can really get paid, especially if he has like the right group behind him, putting together metrics and film on what he's able to do and really helping him out there. But so shout out to him and what he's been able to do. Also, it's such a testament to Benford and Douglas, but how much of a Bills corner thing is it that like 2 of their leaders in tackles for loss are their corners, with how well Rousseau and Benford play the run and how good they are. And then you can just watch Greg Rousseau just show his giant tree trunk arms. And this one is still nuts. Like the wingspan of an airplane and how seamlessly he just reaches to get this ball. Like, it's just nuts.
Right. And, that speed to power move
Oh,
here. And then with the inside hand to strip the quarterback there and be there at the recovery. Great work. We had Puka commenting in the comment section. Number 7's a great example of how to play downhill as a DB. That's true.
mm,
But he also is one of the biggest playmakers when it comes to high
mm.
leverage moments and needing a play in the passing game. You see him fake like he's going to trap the tight end here and then just kind of fall back, get that interception, put 6 points up on the board for the Bills on this play. And he's just been great as well, whether you're talking run or the pass. Just more of an impact. He's more of a variance type guy when it comes to tackling, because he does miss some tackles in the run and pass game, but he also creates these impact plays. So you can live with that, some of the missed tackles here and there.
Yeah, and with the way he flies around, like for as much as he misses a tackle here and there, he's peanut punching the ball out, or he's getting a stop, or he's bringing whether it's the stop against the run or a stop against the pass. And then like this coverage play right here, we broke it down after this Colts game and tied it into something against the Dolphins the previous week in terms of what Taron Johnson said in the post game. Just how smart he is, how savvy he is, how good he is in coverage. He is so important to this Bills defense because it allows them to match teams in the run and the pass, kind of no matter what personnel they go with, because of what he can do in coverage, man and zone, and then also coming forward and playing the run. And then you put him on that second level with a guy like Terrell Bernard, who we show here getting this interception. And Erik, this was a great one that we broke down after the Texans game. Bernard was setting this up for like the entirety of the game. He wanted this one, and this one is a real credit and kudos to how smart and savvy and how high his football IQ is.
One of the nastiest interceptions by a Bills defender over the last few years. The Bills have, again, 13 interceptions. They're ranked 4th currently. They had 18 all of last year. And how he baited CJ Stroud into this, making him think that he was going to attach to that tight end on the crossing route. But all he does is just get his eyes on that wide receiver coming across the middle immediately after passing off that tight end. And then being able to get his head around to make the interception at that moment. Just filthy stuff. And again, one of the reasons why he is so important to the Bills defense, Taron Johnson is so important to the Bills defense. They make those impact plays in those high leverage moments. And that was one of those plays the Bills needed at that moment in time.
Yeah. And I think it's cool to juxtapose them with guys that replaced them this year when they got hurt. Cam Lewis and Balin Spector each performed admirably. I think they played with a high floor and they did their job, more often than not, or maybe more often than I think most would have expected them to do. But you didn't get that high variance impact play type of scenario that you get from Taron Johnson, that you get from Terrell Bernard. And it's that combination of being able to play with that floor, but also being able to play with that extra ceiling and make plays and take the ball away. And to have that between the numbers is huge. And then you also have, Christian Benford operating with discipline and physicality on the outside, similar to what Rasul Douglas does. So now you've got this ability outside with your corners in terms of physicality and an ability to kind of generate plays like this. Leads to an interception for Damar Hamlin. Benford's just been so on point this year.
Good. He's
this
special.
play is so great.
He's special. And, he's been barely tested in man coverage. This is a man coverage rep at the top of the screen. I think he was challenged 10 times when he's been in man coverage. There's only been 2 completions.
Yes.
Obviously, he creates this, he breaks his pass up, it gets intercepted, and he just doesn't allow the opposing wide receiver to get anything positive on him when he's in man coverage. And that's because, like you said, his discipline, his poise, and his technique, man. Yeah. His technique is phenomenal. So again, man coverage top of the screen, you see him cut the route off. You see Hamlin and Spector, they're actually bracketing the running back coming out of the backfield. So if that running back goes inside, Spector's going to take him. If the running back goes outside, Hamlin's going to take him. That's why Hamlin is in that position to make that interception. So once again, scheme kind of playing a part here, personnel and execution by Benford there and Hamlin to get the interception. So if you're a big Benford fan, 1, go to my timeline today. I broke down several of his plays in man coverage, but 2, stand by for the next few plays, because what we love about Benford, he's fearless. Dude, he's in off coverage. And he's got Brian Thomas, who is a fast wide receiver, a vertical wide receiver. This is a fearless play. Like being outside the numbers versus speed in off coverage is a scary place to be. But he's not. He's fearless. He's disciplined, uses his technique, and he creates the pass breakup.
I don't like to pat ourselves on the back too much ever, but we talked to him about Benford a bunch as like a breakout under the radar player this year. And it feels so good to see how good he's been playing because we talked him up so much. And yeah, this one is really beautiful against a dude who can absolutely fly in Brian Thomas Jr. I believe Brian Thomas Jr. has the fastest miles per hour clocked in the league this year on one of his deep touchdowns earlier in the year before he got hurt. So dude can absolutely fly with or without the ball in his hands. And you just see how technically sound Benford is here. Starts to play off. You see him get into his pedal, opens up, and then watch him just break down the positioning, the feet, gets that outside hand on Thomas to be able to curtail his movement a little bit and pull him closer, but also not enough to draw the flag.
Right. Take some speed off that route and break.
Yes. And also be able to kind of hook him and get underneath so he can make a play on the ball. That's savvy. That's technique. That is honing your craft. To be able to do all that in the blink of an eye, it takes technique, it takes savvy, and then to get the PBU on top of it, just really beautiful stuff. And then you go from being able to do something like that with the technique to being able to make a play on the ball. Doesn't do a ton of it, necessarily getting interceptions, but he's a good peanut puncher. He's good at forcing fumbles. Yes. We've seen it the past couple of years. This is a really nice one on A.D. Mitchell against the Colts.
Right. And this is top-down scheme. Watch Hamlin, Johnson, and Benford surround this player, Mitchell, who caught the ball. So they have every escape lane taken care of. And so
that's
they know.
Terrifying. You're just like boxed in. Yeah. Like, where do you go?
You got him boxed in. And so he's like, all right, I'm just going to take what I can get. And here comes Benford sneaking that punch in there to create that fumble force. And again, havoc plays, right? Havoc plays by the Bills defender, including
and even credit to Hamlin there too. Hamlin was going for the punch as well. They're both going for that punch, which is Erik, we talk about it. You get taught this, like first guy in, get the man, second guy in, get the ball, but they know like, hey, there's three of us here. Let's try and get the ball because we're going to bring him down. And Benford gets it out before Hamlin can. That's opportunistic. Like you said, it's part of the reason why they are towards the top of the league, or they've improved this year in forced fumbles, recovered fumbles. Like it's that mentality and how they play philosophically.
They're well coached, man. They're well coached. Look at the angles to the ball. You talked about the technique of punching it out. They have everything covered on this play. Bobby Babbage and his staff are doing a great job of getting the most out of their players. Benford, here he is. He plays with an edge, man. I think that's what I like about him the most. Top of the screen, they're trying to run something else, but they have an escort screen essentially called it with Ingold leading and the running back out there in the flats. And he just tosses Ingold there, makes a tackle. I love the physicality and edge that Benford plays with. He plays with that chip on his shoulder as that 6-rounder. And that's why he's been damn near impossible to take out of the lineup.
He became a fixture in the lineup as a rookie, 6th-round pick out of Villanova. We didn't have a ton of tape on him. The tape we did have on him was him getting burned by Jahan Dotson against Penn State. And we were like, all right, well, kind of just see what happens. And just what he's become in coverage has been really nice to see. But this aspect of his game has been present since day one. The ability to play the run, the ability to play the pass underneath, take on blockers. It's tough. It's physical. He'll set the edge. He'll be a force player, or in this case, he'll go through a legitimate fullback and Alec Ingold, take him on, chuck him, and now he's squaring up Achane one-on-one, and then he makes the play in space. Like that is advantage Dolphins. Like, right, Erik? Yeah. Like we talk about the Bills doing this all the time, being able to check it down on these escort swings, and it's worked for him with Cook. It'll be Kincaid out in front, or sometimes it's Gilliam. This is in space to one of the fastest players in the entire NFL, and Benford shuts it down all by himself. And you get a good angle from Cam Lewis playing off of Benford as well. But like that's a one-man play from Benford against two really good guys when the space is not in your favor.
Right. And so let's talk about the safeties real quick before we wrap this up. We've seen
I see what you did there before we wrap this up.
Yeah, like exactly. You guys remember this play against the Jets. The Jets had this schemed up beautifully versus this too high structure. They got Garrett Wilson matched up with Bernard, but here comes Rapp from the far side, and he's able to jar the ball loose from Garrett Wilson and take 6 points off the board. This is what I like about Rapp. He kind of reminds me of Jordan Poyer early on in his career in Buffalo, where he is that emotional guy. He is that guy that can light someone up coming across the middle, and he does that here. And both safeties here, they're being held by the vertical routes outside. This is very good awareness by Rapp to come all the way across the field and to make that hit on Wilson right on the ball to separate him from that so that the Jets don't get 6 points on the board here.
It's a great route from Garrett Wilson. He does a really good job freezing Bernard, and then with that explosive ability to get upfield right away. And Rodgers doesn't even put it in a bad spot, but Rapp gets right on the ball. I like this one because so many people were kind of raking him over the coals for the friendly fire contact of him hitting other dudes. Like, this is a good physical play, but it's also precise. He gets right on the ball and jars it loose. And between that and Hamlin also closing, you got both of your safeties making a play at the catch point, making contact with a wide receiver, and then that combination, mainly from Rapp there, just jars it loose. That's a huge play in a game that was decided by few points. Every single point mattered in that one. That play was huge.
Yeah, and we talked about, how well the Bills are with their tackling versus the pass. And you see Christian Benford, who we highlighted. You see Rasul Douglas there with very low missed tackle percentages, but making tackles up over 20 tackles each. Benford's at 25. And they're so good in the run game. As you said, Bills playing a lot too high structure, a lot of cloud coverages where they are force defenders in the run game, especially when teams want to run outside. Here's a play against the pass where the Bills are sending a creeper pressure, and Douglas reads the check down an outlet right to the running back. He's making that tackle on third down in the open field right there. Thank you for changing that. Appreciate it. Douglas right there again, flat footed. Boom. Now he's triggering downhill to make the tackle on the running back in the open field, man. If he doesn't make this tackle in the open field on third down, there's a good chance this running back's getting up the sideline for a touchdown with Rapp and Bernard. Again, just inside the numbers there. So Benford and Douglas have done a great job on top of the safeties at, making tackles in the open field against when teams decide to pass the ball here. Just a great tackle here by Douglas.
Yeah, this is such a good play. And in a game, and in a moment, I should say, in the game where the Cardinals are starting to move the ball and generate the momentum, like you have that creeper, like you said, you kind of dictate where this ball goes, but you need someone to execute once it's out there. And Douglas is keying in on it the whole way. He's sitting there. He's waiting for it. He sees Kyler start to load up and throw this, and he's on the ball as it's being caught. And then just to have the ability to finish in space, like you said, and you'll see him, we're talking about him here in specific relation to how he plays the pass, but you'll see him fit the run off the edge. He's blitzing, those cat blitzes from the boundary. And the way he's able to stay flat, he'll take on blocks. He will play the run with physicality. He will take on blockers and just make tackles for loss. He'll make stops with the pass. He's just been such a consistent player on the outside, and him and Benford are so important to the Bills defense in today's day and age with, teams still leaning into the pass, but now the advent of the run game coming back in style, you need your corners to be able to set the edge or be force players or come up and make just a tackle. Like just like
four
like
tackles
that,
for loss on the season.
Which
he's
is
one of the top guys. And so, like you said, the Jets are trying to get outside here. He's the force player. He comes downhill and he meets the running back in the backfield with a real nice tackle.
And so who does he meet him there with? Mr. Greg Rousseau, who leads the team on
who leads the team.
Tackles for
just
loss.
Watch again. This is something. If you go, I went back and watched Douglas's film last year. This is not something he did a lot of last year. He was a little more passive last year. He wasn't as aggressive, but you see him in these cuts, especially this one, where he sacrifices his body and he beats the blocker. He eludes the block. He's able to make a big tackle for loss there. This was not something Douglas did very well in the Bill scheme last year. And this year, he's playing with that physicality and that trigger that has caused, again, 4 tackles for loss on the season.
And we even saw the big run play for the Ravens on crunch where where Douglas hesitated a little bit. First play of the game to Derrick Henry. He didn't fit off it accordingly. We haven't seen him make that mistake again. It's almost like that moment happened and he was like, never again. And every time he makes these tackles, you see the emotion coming from. Look at that. Like he's following. Yes, this was big. He's following his man here, but that receiver is executing a push crack onto Taron Johnson. So I keep saying Benford. Douglas has to crack replace there and step up. This is what, like, Seattle gets everything they want here. In theory, corners are the worst tacklers on a defense. You want your running back one-on-one with an opponent's corner. And not only do you want that in general, that running back is Kenneth Walker, who is a really hard dude to tackle at all, let alone in space. And as you highlighted the track there for Walker, if Walker breaks that tackle with the space and his speed, yes, it's going to be tough with the angle that Spector's taken. Walker can get up that sideline and house it. And not only does Douglas bring him down, he does it decisively. It's within an instant. It's not like he strung him out and pushed him out of bounds. He brings him down immediately. They're such a good tackling secondary for all 5 guys that are regular starters. And even Cam Lewis, when he's worked in, and then, Jamarcus Ingram at times as well. Like, you can tell they're well coached, like you mentioned earlier.
Right. Well coached, and they're not scared to pull, fire that gun and get downhill and make a tackle. This is another big tackle, versus that pressure look by the Bills where they're spitting it out. The Seahawks are to Noah Fant, and Hamlin's got to come from depth to make this tackle out in the open field. And Fant's a guy that when he get the ball in his hand, he can take it to the house. And this is a really nice angle by Hamlin. Yeah. And as much talk as we've heard about Hamlin and the bad angles he takes at times, I mean, you don't lead the team in solo tackles versus the pass if you're taking bad angles. I'm sorry, guys. That's just not how it works. And are there times where his lack of athleticism or acceleration or burst hurts him when it comes to bringing, whether it's a running back or a ball carrier down? Sure. Yeah. But when it comes to angles, for the most part, he takes really good angles of the ball, especially if you're talking from those 2 high structures, from that post structure, from depth. He usually takes really good angles, and he's a good judgment of, speed of the ball carrier, but also his lack of speed and what angle he needs to take to get to the ball.
I was going to say, like, his angles need to be on point because he can't make up for a poor angle with, burst or athleticism or juice. Like, his angles have to be on point. And for as unsexy as he is as a player, he is usually pretty assignment sound. I will say my biggest criticism, and we're showing these plays and it juxtaposes well with the Seattle one. That multiple armband look is such a good look. I don't know why he doesn't do it every week. Like this like good play against Miami here. He just doesn't look as good. Like, this is a boring look. I need more wristbands like he did at Pitt. Like, stop, showing a lack of commitment and a lack of effort with your drip in your game. Like, step it up. More wristbands, please. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, maybe it's something to do with like turf versus grass. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's got something to do with that. I'm trying to help the guy out here. All right,
just trying to throw him a bone. That's fair. That's fair. Understandable.
But again, versus the pass, he's made so many big tackles in the open field, as you're seeing here. So many big tackles in open field, more specifically geared when the opposing offense is trying to pass the ball. Where I think as Rapp, his tackles and his big tackles were in high leverage situations versus the run and saving points versus the run. I think Hamlin's is versus the pass. So I think there's a very good complement to each other when you're talking Hamlin and Rapp, as you can see on some of this film. But just as a unit, man, I think defensively they've done a great job of defending opposing offenses that want to pass the ball, get the ball into space, like you're seeing here. Taron Johnson dropping to his area, eliminating one, and then coming downhill, making a nice tackle on the running back in the flats there. This defensive unit's been great from the top down when we're talking tackling. And I think that's why they, right now, when you're talking pass, they're number 1 in missed tackle percentage, having the lowest at 9.6, was it? 9.6%. I think that's been the biggest improvement if we're talking the Bills defense.
Yeah, I mean, that from 13% to 9.6, a significant percentage drop. The ranking dropped from being 26 last year, like you said, to being first this year. And again, it's the hallmark of, the McDermott defense. They play sound. They are assignment sound in coverage and a lot of their fits when things are really clicking. And I think sometimes people kind of mistake how they play for being, you see a lot of the comments of like, oh, I'm tired of like the soft coverage that, people say, or, they're just like letting everybody catch the ball and they're not taking advantage of, but like some of that is by design. Like, hey, cool, catch this ball at 4 yards on 3rd and 9, and we're going to come up and we're going to fit, and we're going to make the tackle. Like you're seeing on this play, like Taron Johnson, he shifts over, he reads the run action here, drops into his zone, the ball's completed underneath, triggers immediately into his curl flat, and then makes the tackle one-on-one. That's on 2nd down. So someone's going to see that, and I feel like someone would see that and be like, well, this is soft coverage. No, it's not. Like, you are playing to the design of the defense, and you're letting your players go and execute. That's a good play from Taron Johnson, and they're able to play like this because of Taron, and even more so Benford, Douglas, Rapp, Hamlin. Like, their ability to consistently tackle in these areas has been just such a hugely important thing for the defense, and it matters a lot, not only against the run, but against the pass as well, with how they've been able to function, and again, how the defense plays from a stylistic and philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, controlled aggression, man. I think they're still playing, that chaotic havoc style defense that's fallen off a little bit. And again, I think that's because of the injuries, but I also think their missed tackle percentage has gotten better because of guys like Dorian Williams. As I said, he doesn't miss many tackles, and when he does tackle, he usually brings the pads with him, as we talked about earlier. And so I think some of the injuries have to do with that. I think. Some of the defensive linemen, last year, I looked at some of the stats. Listen to this. Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, Tim Settle, Shaq Lawson, Leonard Floyd were all above 20% missed tackle percentage.
Oh.
All right. In 2023. This year, when you're looking at defensive line, only Ed, Daquan, and Dwayne Smoot are over 20%. And so I think the style of player, the Austin Johnsons, Dwayne Carter, some of the guys they brought in along the D line, I don't think they're up the field type guys and super aggressive. And so I think the game's kind of coming to them a little more. And I think that aggression is still there, but it's a little more under control when you're talking fitting up a ball carrier or you're fitting up a wide receiver after they catch it there in the flats. I think there's, again, we talk of scheme and personnel. I think some of the injuries, some of the scheme and coaching, but also some of the personnel and personnel changes this past offseason have a lot to do with why they have improved in the tackling game.
Yeah, even some of the, we heard Babbage talk about it or mention it, and we talked about it, playing a little more gap and a half this year instead of being so like one gap penetrative, get upfield, playing a little more, I don't want to say reserve, but I guess under control to kind of use your verbiage with playing that kind of reading and reacting. You can't just, all right, cool, here's my gap, let me shoot right on the snap. You do have to play a little more, under control and kind of read it out. And that doesn't lend itself to making tackles for loss, but it also doesn't lend itself to you playing so aggressive that you're out of position or you're missing a tackle and kind of can get out leveraged and things like that. So yeah, again, scheme, the personnel, the marriage of the two, how they fit, all leading to these numbers that we broke down, what we showed in this episode, but also what we've showed regularly here in the film room. Something else we want to take a peek at now, again, from our friends at BetUS. Jayden Daniels, it has been a super exciting player in the NFL this year. Rookie quarterback out of LSU for the Washington Commanders, and his performance against the Dallas Cowboys, arguably the game of the week, especially the last 5 minutes. That game was absolutely nuts. But Daniels in that game, he became the first rookie in NFL history to throw for at least 250 passing yards, rush for at least 70 rushing yards, have 2 touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown all in one game. A really fun performance from Daniels, highlighted by one of his completions to Terry McLaurin towards the end when it looked where it really looked like that was going to be, oh man, they're going to tie it. We're going to go to OT, and then their kicker missed the kick in such a brutal, heartbreaking fashion. But Erik, Daniels, what he's been as a QB, kind of functioning within this new age of quarterbacks with generating explosives with their arm and their legs. Just a really fun, exciting dude. Again, a historic game, from a rookie perspective against the Cowboys, but just somebody who seems to be like an electric generating machine, play in and play out for Washington this year, and a really fun guy to watch.
Yeah, especially when you consider, again, kind of his limitations, coming out as a passer. I think he's been very decisive, from the shoulders up, Yes, maybe he's a little quick to pull down a run, but early on, like that's the way you got to play, when you're trying to, match the talent and speed at the NFL level. I do think they do a great job of, giving him answers and options. And sometimes that's just easy. They're easy plays. They're easy button plays. And I think they've done a great job of catering to his strengths and kind of minimizing his weaknesses. And like Josh Allen early on, his legs are a check down. And so if he doesn't like what he sees with his eyes from the shoulders up, he can, take that route or avenue to get him out of a jam. And so I think when we looked at these stats, when it comes to this statistic from BetUS, I was like, hold on, that's historic. And we were like, holy cow, that's kind of surprising that honestly, one, he's able to do that this early on, but that is actually, a tracked statistic. But overall, I think he's been explosive, and this league is about explosives, and there's no doubt he's been that.
Yeah, he's been really good. I take a little bit of an L. I wasn't a huge fan of his coming out of LSU. I really thought like, oh, this dude is just, he's just going to run too much and all he wants to do is throw slot fades. And he has proved me wrong, like just with the electricity, but the decision-making, the decisiveness, like you said, and even Cliff Kingsbury, like kind of coming from exile and being able to work it with this offense. I know some people are still waiting for the other shoe to drop and for them to hit like that second half wall that Kingsbury offenses usually hit, especially with his time in Arizona. But their marriage has been really strong. I'm a huge Terry McLaurin fan, so I'm really enjoying, him having a quarterback be able to get him the ball downfield and take advantage of his skill set. So some really fun pieces out there in Washington. If you're a football fan, keep your eyes on them as they continue down the stretch. Looks like a playoff team right now. We'll see what happens as they finish here. And again, this graphic presented by our friends at BetUS. If you're looking for a sportsbook this football season, BetUS is the answer. They give the fastest payouts in the industry, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000, all with code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. They give a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they also can give you your very own personal account manager. Head over to BetUS for all of your sportsbook and betting needs. Fun times with our friends over there at BetUS.
Yeah, thank you for partnering with us and taking care of us. Some really good, topics of conversation when it comes to, more broader themes and not just Bill stuff, but also again the standings and players that are standing out that deserve some highlighting. And Jayden Daniels is one of those guys. There's no doubt about it. But another guy that we need to highlight, we talked about several times this episode, but a guy that we want to throw a little more spotlight, just a little extra as our easy loan, what we'll call our easy loan player of the first 12 weeks. I'll just say that because aside from Josh Allen, I think Khalil Shakir has been everything as advertised and has really lived up to the billing. And he's a guy that has been super important for the Bills offense. We talked about the reasons why, whether it's the screens, the high leverage situations, the easy button plays that he can turn into major plays inside of structure, plays outside of structure. I feel like Shakir has been, one of the engines aside from Josh Allen on the Bills offense.
Yeah, he was in last week's bye week episode of Disguise Coverage, he was my answer for team MVP, not named Josh Allen. He's just meant so much to this Bills offense in the ways that we talked about, the yards after catch and being that easy button. But I think even more so with the development of the pass catchers. Kincaid's been banged up a little bit and it has kind of faltered a bit at times as well. Keon Coleman, you're trying to get him to develop. Curtis Samuel was banged up coming out of camp. There were some question marks around the pass catchers, and Shakir has just been this stabilizing factor in a multitude of ways. And again, the way that he works, being that easy button for Josh, where Allen just has to literally like pitch it to him and let him do the majority of the work. And as we show all these plays, Erik, just how he's winning in a multitude of ways, where he's catching the ball, how he functions after the catch, the speed, the athleticism, the vision, the contact balance. He's pulling out some spin moves and pressing that circle button there on his controller. It's just really impressive to see how he's been operating, and he's been an absolute necessity for this Bills offense through these first 11 games and, hopefully for the entirety of the rest of the season.
Right. And as I said, he's been our easy loan, like player of the first 12 weeks of the NFL season. Just a huge part of the Bills. And when he hasn't been in the lineup, you could see the difference that how much they miss him. Right. And the difference he makes when it comes to the Bills offense. And we talked about in the beginning, a yak oriented scheme. And he is the engine behind that scheme and that philosophy.
Absolutely. And again, all these, whether it's the screens by design or the ones that are just taking advantage of leverage and numbers and space, like we said, or even just, the completion earlier in this game against Tennessee over the middle, and he gets matched up against Ernest Jones, shakes him and get upfield. He's meant a lot to this Bills offense. And that's why he is our easy loan auto sales player of the first 11 weeks, we'll call it there. Again, sponsored, of course, by Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help get you behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. And congratulations to Khalil Shakir for this prestigious award.
No doubt,
I
man.
like it. Yeah.
That was a fun episode, dude. That was fun. I think we covered a lot when it comes to big ticket, topics and conversation, whether it's Joe Brady and his scheme, whether it's the tackling or,
Mhm.
how the Bills have improved their tackling, what the defense is doing differently, how the
Yeah.
personnel, how the scheme affected all of these statistics and why, and what has led to the Bills being 9-2 here at the bye week.
Yeah, and it's really been a total team effort in a variety of ways on a year where they were hitting this revamp and changing some things on and off the field from a roster standpoint, from a style and philosophy standpoint, from a coaching perspective, especially on the defensive side of the ball, new position coaches at every level, new defensive coordinator, a lot of potential for things to kind of fall through the cracks or for there to be some sputtering. And for this team to be 9-2, it's really because they've tightened up in a lot of areas, despite injuries and despite the new faces in different places on and off the field. It's really been a successful year up until this point, and it does not get any easier from this moment as the Bills take on the San Francisco 49ers. And if you would like to have good conversational pieces about the Buffalo Bills or about the Bills versus Niners leading into the game, or a place to chat about it on game day, Erik, would we have some kind of place for people if they wanted to kind of do that or engage in that, and then also maybe get them other bonuses or perks or advantages on top of that?
I tell you what, yes, of course. And, it's Thanksgiving. We appreciate you guys joining us in the film room this week. But one thing I am super proud of and thankful for is our Discord channel, is our premium content, our One Pass subscription. And we're going to be running a Black Friday deal and sale where you get 25% off that One Pass subscription up until Monday. So if you join and support our products and everything you saw tonight is only being able to be done because of our insiders and our support. So we are running a Black Friday sale. You get all of the premium content. You especially again our Discord server, our Discord channel. Anthony and I always dropping film throughout the day in there. Always dropping nuggets as a lot of our insiders know. We dropped some nuggets in there today. And so we appreciate all the support, and we're thankful for all of you guys. And if you can again support us and help support the network, we'd appreciate it, and we're thankful for it. And again, I said it's one of the things I'm most proud of when it comes to the Cover One Sports Network.
And there's the insider group is awesome, and the Discord channel is so immersive that it's awesome and also like intimidating. There's so many channels, there's so many conversational pieces. It's Bills stuff, there's fantasy football, there's college football, there's the film channel that Erik and I are in a ton. As a Miami Hurricane fan, I'm super nervous to get in the college football one again this Saturday, because if Miami loses to Syracuse, I'm going to flip out. So I'm super hesitant about getting in there until they're confirmed to be in the ACC championship, probably against SMU. But yeah, there's just something for everyone. Oh, and this is an awesome plug from Kay Amori, who says One Pass is a great experience for those of you that haven't joined! Exclamation point. I'm sorry, for those of you who haven't joined! Exclamation point. Yeah, Kay Amori's a vet in that regard. And again, there really is something for everyone. It's a good group of people just talking football, talking fantasy football, anything and everything. Obviously, there is that Bills lens and focus to it, but there's a lot of communication that happens on a daily basis, nightly basis, game day basis, off-season basis, in addition to all the little nuggets that, we talk about it all the time. We're not a breaking news type of network, but there are nuggets of information that we do have from time to time as a brand, and we're not just trying to put it out and broadcast it all the time. We give that to our insiders in the Discord chat and channel, along with other, fun little pieces in that regard. So if you are able to, awesome, support us in that regard and get yourself some great content on top of it, whatever form or fashion your support comes in. We are greatly appreciative of it, whether it's joining us live on these episodes, whether it's dropping a like on these videos, subscribing, becoming an insider, subscribing to the Cover One YouTube channel, or turning on notifications. Whatever form or fashion your support comes in, we greatly appreciate it from you folks. We hope you folks enjoy this episode of the Cover One Film Room. Smash that like here on YouTube if you're watching live now, or if you're watching later. Turn on notifications for the Film Room playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel. We have you covered pretty much every single day of the week with varying levels of Bills content and analysis. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's cool and appreciate it as well. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Film Room and to the Cover One channel. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about how awesome the show is, the brand is, Word of mouth is a huge way of how we built success here and continue to have success. So again, any word of mouth is tremendously appreciated. And like Erik put in the chat there, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. This is a great time. We're very thankful, like Erik said, for this platform and for this channel and for all of you folks. Again, whatever form or fashion your support comes in. Erik, any final words or thoughts for the people before we say goodbye?
No, I think we've said enough. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week in the film room.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. For those of you cooking turkeys in special ways, be careful. If you're deep frying, don't let it explode. I've seen and heard that happen to different people. So, I like that from James. Happy tryptophan dreams. Yeah, down some turkey, get some of that tryptophan, go night-night. The games are a little meh in the afternoon. Lions and Bears could be fun in the morning. Packers, Dolphins could be fun at night. See what happens. Enjoy the time with your family and friends and loved ones.
Yes.
We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.